This feels like a magic carpet, that Aladdin bloke. On his flying magic carpet. That's what this boat is. Okay guys, so she's about 38.5 feet long. She's almost 4.5 meters wide. And I put that in feet as well for you Americans, 14.7 feet wide. So we've got the capacity, inshore and offshore. So we've got 9 people offshore and 14 people inshore. And I'm just pottering along because I'm going to try and explain a couple of things about this hull before we just zip out past a very cool place called Stiltsville. I'll explain that when we get over there. It really is hard to describe the sensation on this boat when it's so smooth. That's what I'm going to try and impart to you guys on this drive. First thing I want to point out is the efficiency of these hulls. So I'm talking miles per hour and gallons consumption. I'm in America, we're going to speak American. So we're doing 11 knots right now, GPS over ground, 11 miles, let me correct myself, and I've got a total fuel flow of 12 gallons an hour. And I'm just going to wind that up through the rev range, and we'll turn around pretty soon as well. Okay, so my RPM just coming to about 3,900 RPM. I'm running the Verado 350s. You can do the V10s, the new Mercury V10 350s, and you can also do the V8 300s if you wish. But so at 3,900, the boat really sort of pops up on the plane there. You can give it a little bit of a trim if you like, and I'm actually just going to dial the power back because as we came up with the plane, the revs wanted to increase up to 4,000, but I'm sitting on 19.5 miles an hour, super flat attitude, incredibly smooth. And so now my revs are about 3,950 revs, and I got a gallons consumption of 19.7 gallons an hour total at 18 to 19 miles an hour. So that's super easy. We'll just speed it up a little bit, and then I'm going to turn around. So as you come through the rev range, the attitude really just remains level. We've tackled quite a bit of boat wash today. You just don't notice it. So just calculate that into the sort of adventures you might have in mind for yourself, because this boat's going to be really capable for some of the places you might have in mind for it. So now at 4,400 revs, 23.9 miles per hour, and a consumption of 28 gallons total. So I'm going to turn the boat at that speed and just go through a little bit of an angle, and now I'm going to speed right up to full speed before I turn around. Okay, that's foot to the floor, 27, 28. The acceleration is slow and predictable, 31, 32, 32 and a half, 33, consumption 61 gallons an hour, 34, little bit of a trim up, 34 and a half. I think 35 miles an hour is about what we're going to see. Still climbing a little bit, 35 and a half at 62 gallons an hour consumption. Now I'm going to go through a turn, gradual at first, and I want you to pay attention to the heel angle or lack of heel angle, which might be weird for some of you. So I'm doing that at 25 mile an hour. It just turns flat. It really is quite flat. No leaning out of the turn, but no leaning into the turn. So if you had a drink on the bench there, if it wasn't secured, it might slide away. So just pay attention to that. So now when we return towards Stiltsville, I'm going to maintain or vary my cruise speed, and I'm just going to take the boat through some turns and notice how level she's remaining. Now we're going into some wind chop because we're going to be getting more exposed to the offshore conditions when we exit this channel here, or we're not going to exit the channel, but we're going to just run up the channel, and there's a little bit of wind out there, but I've got some wind chop coming from the starboard side over under the boat, and I just can't even feel it. You know what this feels like? This feels like a magic carpet. That Aladdin bloke on his flying magic carpet. That's what this boat is. So, you know, if you've come from a smaller Four Winns, if you've come from a little ski boat, if you are used to just belting up the inshore waterways and you perhaps your heart skips a beat when you think about going offshore, or maybe you've just never done it, this hull is going to open up new horizons for you, but it's also going to do it in such a way that if you've got nervous Nellies on board with you, maybe your wife, maybe your kids or your friends, they're really not going to be put in a position where they're made to feel uncomfortable on this hull. So now let me just check my nav again, because I got shallow water to the right, shallow water to the left. I'm going to make sure I've got the markers lined up, which I do now, and we'll just keep cruising. So the design of the windscreen, the roof, the seating position, you've got a little bit of loss of visibility from this pillar here. That's going to happen on any design like this. All you got to do is lean your head, make sure you can be consistent with keeping a good lookout. The throttle position, really, really comfortable, set back from the wheel. For long periods of time, I would probably enjoy standing, but also we'll check out the sitting down in the walkthrough. I don't see too many issues there. We got this footrest. If you want to increase your height, pay attention to the amount of space I have above my head right here. I've got quite a lot. The wind vortices are starting just here. So I'm 5'7", standing with my feet flat to the floor right now. If I was, say, 6 foot, I'm on my tippy toes, it's actually still okay. If you're a bit taller, then yes, you're going to have a little bit of wind in your face. There are some clears that you can infill this area forward of us if the wind chill is a problem. Maybe that's a design update or an idea for Four Winns. Leave a comment below if you think. What do you reckon if they enclose this completely in glass? That might be an idea. Okay, mental calculation. Everything's back to front in America. Green on the right, red on the left. Good, okay. Always double check yourself if you're not sure. Entering the channel now, coming in at a speed of 24 miles an hour, and my consumption's sitting on that 32 gallons. Okay, green on the right, red on the left, and I'm going to cruise up to a cool place just for some pretty pictures. So this is called Stiltsville. I'm in Miami. Did I mention I'm in America? Hello. I'm having a great time. And I believe this is just where smugglers used to hide once upon a time. If you know the true story, please leave a comment below and explain in more detail. But my understanding is smugglers just came out here and set up these houses, and whatever they were smuggling, they brought it in here because it technically wasn't part of the mainland. I just think that's a great story. That's hilarious. Refocusing on the boat, I really do feel your comfortable cruise, and the reason I say this is because of the noise levels, is going to be somewhere around the 23 miles an hour, because and that's at about 4,400, 4,300 revs. If you bump it up with these Verados, you do notice a bit more noise. With the V10s, might be a different story. Need to check that. But on this particular setup, now I'm backing it down to that 23 approximately. It's much more acceptable from a noise perspective. Being a completely open boat, lots of your mates are going to be out the back here, and I think that's probably the kind thing to do. And then if you pay attention, from 21 to 23, your flow goes from 26 gallons to 30 gallons an hour. So on a boat of this size that can take up to 14 people, you are punching above it. A lot of boats' weight, you know, compared to a monohull, you're really punching above your weight there. It's quite an impressive thing to achieve. So let's get in close. There is tide running, so I'm going to have to be sensible, and I've got shallow water on the left here, and I'm just going to tuck in Now, I want you to pay attention to the wake as well. When we come off the plane, but also when we are going at speed, the wake on these two hulls, there's a bit of activity right behind the boat, as you would expect with the motors doing their thing. It looks like a mini rooster tail, but then it really flattens out quite a way aft of us, and it's not super offensive. So if you were in a very busy part of town and trying not to offend other people, or a low wake zone, you're probably going to be able to get away with keeping up a bit more speed than compared to a similarly sized monohull. Remember, we're like 38 plus foot LOA, so that's just something to consider. Coming off the plane, you know, you just do it like any boat, just manage your speed and she's all good. Next thing, we do have the Mercury joystick on this boat. I'll have a little play with it, but I'm not 100% sure if you need it. If you are new to boats, by all means, go ahead and get the technology if you see a benefit in it. But let's just remember, you know, we've got 4.5 meters, something like 14-foot beam, so the engines are quite a way apart. They're not stacked up next to each other. So if we want to do some transverse thrust, and I'm just going to take you next to the old smuggler's house. How cool, the pink doors. It's so cool. I'm going to turn this way so you can see on the camera, and hopefully that will be visible. Yeah, just using that transverse thrust. I'm just doing it now, just giving a little bit of throttle because we are in a tidal zone and I don't want to get pulled into that pole. But look how quickly the boat's moving right now, guys. Can you see that? So I feel like that is more than maneuverable for most scenarios. I've got a ripping tide going from this way to that way at the moment, and I still feel quite well in control, and I really just want to get that house in the shot for you. Can you see it? I hope you can. Because that's not difficult. You know, I can see the starboard transom from the helm. I can't see the port one, but because it's quite a low profile vessel, I can kind of work it out, especially if I had someone standing in the corner there ready to pick up a line. That's not going to be too much of an issue. So from a maneuvering perspective, this full open design gives me easy communication to people on the bow, easy communication back to the transoms. I've got good viz, I can see the side, and I can also leave the helm because it's just a single helm seat here, and make my way forward or aft. So if I was solo docking, it's not going to be you know, much of a drama. So that's quite interesting. That is very, very interesting. But you know, at sort of cruising speeds we were just doing, this really is family friendly. We can do the fast runs, but running, okay, it's not ocean conditions. This is just a big bay, and we've got what we've got. But from the chop that I've passed through, from the waves that we've made our way over, and from the wind affected areas that we've just experienced, it feels like a magic carpet. It's like nothing you have experienced before if you're coming from a monohull. From the acceleration, the maintaining cruise, and the top speed, you are just gliding on a cushion of air is what it feels like. So if you're wanting to create that experience of comfort for you and your guests, if you want to eat up some miles, go places, you can clearly eat up a few miles in this part of the world, this is a good boat to do it. And then if you want to have a big massive platform to hang out and have fun or do whatever you want to do with accommodation, you can do that too, but that's in a separate video. That's the walkthrough. Well, ladies, gentlemen, I hope that was useful. Come and we'll wrap this up on the bow lounge because it's such a nice place to be. The magic carpet, that's what I'm going to call this thing. She really is Aladdin's flying magic carpet. She's stable, she's flat, she's fast, she doesn't burn a lot of fuel, and not too much slapping about in between the hulls when you're going through waves. So I would consider this an incredibly comfortable platform for you, your mates, your family, and extra guests. Remember, up to 14 people inshore, 9 offshore. You really can have some limitless adventures on this boat. You're not burning a lot of fuel. You've got the capability to go well over 30 miles. You know, we did 35 miles, but you can really cruise around comfortably, efficiently at that 23 mile an hour sort of speed setting all day long, all day long. And just at that flat running attitude she assumes all the time. It might be something you have to get used to if you come from, say, your smaller Four Winns sports boat or sports cruiser. But I tell you what, going from the stern drive monohull sports cruisers of back in the day that had all of this stuff going on, this is an incredible platform, and I think it's the future. I think it could be your future for many of you. So I hope that was useful. You've been watching Dan's Boat Life. My name's Dan Jones. I'll pop another video up on the screen now just for you to do some comparisons. Click on there if you're interested. Don't forget to support my Patreon. Thanks very much, guys. See you on the next one.